What if the thing you brought home to heal your grief was the reason your real daughter never came back? Stick with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to look at family photos completely differently. Let's get into it. Act 1. A normal afternoon. We open on a house full of kids, running around, laughing, playing. Total chaos, the kind every parent knows. A woman named Yoshi tells her daughter May that she's heading out to grab snacks for her and her friends. Before she leaves, Yoshi does something every careful mom does. She puts the sharp knives and utensils up on a high shelf so none of the kids playing around get hurt. She heads to the store. Back at the house, the kids start a game of hide and seek. May goes off to find a hiding spot, but here's the thing. When she goes looking, her friends are already tucked away somewhere. She just needs to find her own spot. Yoshi gets home a little while later, and immediately something feels wrong. All the other kids are standing outside with their parents. Not May. She's nowhere. It's been way too long. Yoshi panics and calls the police to report her daughter missing. And what happens next is the kind of scene that will make you never want to do laundry again. May's father, Suzuki, rushes home the second he hears. He tries to hold it together, even makes Yoshi a cup of tea because she's absolutely falling apart. But she's shaking so badly the cup slips right out of her hands. She grabs a cloth to clean it up and heads to the washing machine to rinse it out. She opens the lid and she starts screaming. May is inside. She'd crawled in there to hide, and the lid must have sealed shut behind her. No air. By the time anyone found her, she was already gone. This is where the movie stops being a tragedy and starts being a nightmare. From that day on, Yoshi can't function. She's consumed by grief, drowning in it no matter how many pills the doctors put her on. One day, May's grandmother visits and hands her a pamphlet, pictures of dolls on it. Turns out it's for a spiritual retreat where grieving people bring a doll and burn it in a ritual to help release their pain. Yoshi's standing on her balcony, turning the idea over in her head, when a gust of wind rips the pamphlet right out of her hands. She chases it down into the market near her apartment, and that's where she spots a doll in a shop window. Something about it pulls her in. She buys it and brings it home. When Suzuki gets home that night, one look at the doll and he's visibly uneasy, but he lets it go because for the first time since the funeral, his wife actually looks happy. The next day, he comes home from work and does a double take. The doll's hair and nails look like they've grown, and now it looks less like a doll and more like May. Keep that detail in your back pocket, hair and nails that grow, because it's about to become the most important clue in the entire film. At Yoshi's next doctor's appointment, she brings the doll along. Suzuki's mortified, worried people are going to think his wife has lost it, but the doctor actually reassures him. Keeping a comfort object like this is a legitimate form of grief therapy. It helps people process loss and move forward. So Suzuki stops fighting it. They name the doll Aya, and life almost looks normal again. Picnics together, shopping trips to buy Aya little outfits. Yoshi starts smiling again. She stops spiraling into thoughts of May, and then a twist nobody saw coming. Yoshi shows up at Suzuki's hospital. No appointment on the books. She's not there for a checkup. She's pregnant. Time skips forward. Yoshi gives birth to a baby girl, and they name her May too. With their new daughter in their arms, Aya the doll gets shoved into the toy pile, forgotten, until one night, baby May won't stop crying. Nothing works. So Yoshi, out of instinct, pulls out old Aya and tucks her in next to the baby to soothe her. It works. May calms down. Yoshi steps out to visit with May's grandmother, who's stopped by. A few minutes later, crying again, Yoshi rushes back into the room, and what she finds next is the first real "something is deeply wrong here" moment of the movie. Aya is way closer to the baby than she left her. She scoops May up and finds strands of hair wrapped tightly around the baby's throat. She yanks Aya away immediately. That night, Suzuki examines the box Aya came in. Japanese writing on it he can't read. He and Yoshi convince themselves May must have grabbed the doll herself while playing and somehow gotten tangled. Simple explanation. Case closed. Suzuki locks Aya back in her box and shoves it deep in the storage room. May is older now. One day she's playing marbles and one rolls into the storage room. She goes hunting for it and comes back out cradling Aya. She asks her mom if she can keep the doll. This one, she says, is named Aya. Yoshi is stunned. After 5 years locked away in a box, the doll's hair and nails have grown again. When Suzuki gets home, she tells him. He brushes it off. Apparently, old doll makers used to use real human hair and nails on their dolls, so it just looks aged. Simple explanation. That night, May abandons her own bed and crawls in next to her mother. When Yoshi asks why, May says Aya is hitting her because all the love can't just go to one person. Kids say weird things all the time, right? That's what Yoshi tells herself too. Dolls don't talk. She moves Aya to a high shelf and chalks it up to a bad dream. The next day, May's friend comes over to play. A little while later, the friend runs out of the room in tears. There are bite marks on her hand. Yoshi makes May apologize. Instead, May insists, "I didn't do it. Aya did." Yoshi assumes May's just avoiding trouble. Kids blame imaginary friends for their own mess-ups all the time. Even May's teacher agrees this is normal at her age, but then shows Yoshi some of May's recent drawings, and they are deeply unsettling, almost like they're hiding a message. That night, May crawls into her parents' bed again while they're sleeping. Yoshi flips the light on to check and nearly has a heart attack. It's not May lying there. It's Aya. The next morning, she tells Suzuki she's convinced the doll is alive. He doesn't buy it. He thinks May probably just left the doll in their room by accident. He heads to work. Once May's off at school, Yoshi's had enough. She bags Aya up and drops her off by the trash. If you've ever seen a horror movie in your life, you already know throwing the doll away was never going to be that easy. There's a knock at the door. Yoshi answers, terrified it somehow walked itself home, and there she is, Aya, sitting outside, with a note attached from the garbage collectors saying items this large can't just be tossed out with regular trash. She goes back down and begs the collection crew to take Aya with them anyway. They agree. Moments later, their truck is in a massive accident. When Yoshia rushes to the scene, May is already there, holding Aya, because May genuinely loves this doll. That night, Yoshia and Suzuki review the nursery security camera footage, and there's a second voice on it. A child's voice, not May's. Yoshia tries to convince Suzuki again that Aya isn't a doll, she's alive. But mid-conversation, she starts clawing at her own arm without realizing it. Suzuki recognizes the behavior instantly. Yoshia used to do this after their first daughter died, dissociating, hurting herself without meaning to. He assumes her grief and delusions are back. So the next morning, he takes her to the hospital. At the hospital, something else comes to light. May's there for tests too, and the doctor notices deep scratch marks all over her back. When Suzuki asks what happened, May refuses to say. She claims whoever did it will hurt her if she talks. Suzuki jumps to the worst conclusion. He thinks Yoshie did this in one of her episodes. He decides she needs to be admitted for treatment. Yoshie only agrees on one condition. Suzuki has to take Aya to that spiritual retreat and have her burned immediately. Suzuki calls the number on the pamphlet. They're fully booked for the month, but they ask him to email photos of the doll and its box so they can take a look. When he photographs the box, he notices an inscription in the corner, Kokichi Yasumoto. That name is about to unravel everything. He searches it online and finds a documentary. A doll maker named Kokichi Yasumoto from decades ago, who built dolls so lifelike, people swore they were alive. The video follows a crew heading to an island called Kanajima to investigate his story. Years ago, his daughter vanished without a trace, and in his grief, Yasumoto built a doll in her image. His wife kept it with her constantly until the day she died, and the doll was buried with her. The crew in the documentary goes to the island, searches, and finds nothing unusual. Suzuki breathes a little easier, figures it's just an urban legend. Then, the retreat calls back. They can suddenly fit him in tomorrow, and they need him to bring the doll immediately. Keep it locked in its box until they arrive. Meanwhile, at May's grandmother's house, she's watching May with Aya close by. Grandma steps out for water and spots what she thinks is May near the TV. She lets May climb onto her back for a piggyback ride to her room. She flicks the light on. May is fast asleep in bed. The thing on her back was Aya. Grandma calls Suzuki in a panic. He rushes over to collect Aya, but locks the doll back in storage first. Not long after, the storage room door starts rattling, like something slamming against it from inside. She works up the nerve to check. Turns out it's just a cleaning robot that switched on by accident. But when she checks where she left the doll, Aya is gone, and so is May. Grandma runs outside searching, flags down a man on a bike who says he saw two girls walking together near the bridge. She rushes there and finds May sitting alone on the railing. At the same time, Suzuki arrives at the house looking for Aya. No one's home. Then he sees May walking up outside, doll in hand, and there's blood on her mouth. He cleans her up, completely baffled. She has no visible injuries. He locks Aya back in her box just as police cars pull up outside, with May's unconscious grandmother in the back. Turns out someone called it in. An elderly woman found passed out near the bridge. She tells police she went looking for May, spotted her on the bridge railing, and then something unknown attacked her before she blacked out. The officer pulls Suzuki aside and shows him security footage from before Grandma's collapse. It clearly shows a girl sitting on the bridge, presumably May. Grandma arrives, helps her down, and then a second girl comes sprinting out of the darkness and attacks Grandma. Suzuki is left with an impossible question. Which girl was actually May? The one calmly sitting on the bridge, or the one who came charging out of the dark covered in blood? The next morning, a monk from the retreat arrives to collect the doll. Suzuki's standing there gripping a hockey stick. He's genuinely afraid of this thing now. The monk opens the trunk, and Aya is right where they left her. Relief. The monk wraps her in cloth inscribed with protective chants, seals her back in the box, and tells Suzuki to be at the temple at exactly 10 a.m. The burning ritual starts on the dot. Suzuki makes it there in time, alongside a crowd of others there to burn their own dolls, though none of theirs are anything like Aya. The monk carries her out wrapped in the sacred cloth, and right in front of Suzuki's eyes, she's thrown into the fire with the rest. He rushes home and shows Yoshie the video. She's overjoyed. Finally, it's over. Except it isn't. Not even close. Turns out someone working at the temple stole Aya before she ever hit the flames, planning to sell her to an antique dealer, since he recognized her as the legendary Yasumoto doll. He had no idea what she actually was. The dealer lowballs him badly on price. Annoyed, the thief goes to leave with Aya still in tow, and suddenly something feels wrong in his mouth. Hair starts pouring out of it, and he collapses on the stairs. Her box shatters in the fall, and Aya is free again. The man is rushed to Suzuki's hospital in critical condition. That's when Suzuki runs into the same monk from the burning ritual, except now he's holding Aya. Suzuki watched this thing burn with his own eyes less than a day ago. The monk explains everything. The temple worker swapped Aya out for a decoy doll before the fire and vanished with her. He hands Suzuki the number of a man named Kanda, someone equipped to actually deal with whatever Aya really is, and warns that she's far more dangerous than anyone realized. Until Kanda arrives, keep her locked in her box, no matter what. Only problem? The box is already destroyed. While Suzuki's on the phone with Kanda, a random little girl starts playing with Aya nearby. He rushes to stop her, and hears something rattling around inside the doll. He shakes her, and something falls out. A human tooth. Suzuki takes Aya straight to the hospital's imaging room and runs a full body scan. What shows up on that screen is the moment this movie stops being a ghost story and becomes something much worse. Inside the doll, a full human skeletal structure. A child's. He immediately alerts the police, who take Aya into custody as potential evidence in a possible crime. Suzuki doesn't fight it. Honestly, he's relieved to be rid of her. But the second the officer steps outside with Aya, Kanda is waiting. One glance and Kanda confirms. This is the doll. He can see things ordinary people can't. Suzuki explains the scan results. The officer, unconvinced this is anything supernatural, insists on taking Aya to a research facility to investigate further. He still thinks a criminal is using the doll to hide evidence. Kanda takes a photo of Aya and hands it to the officer. But the photo shows nothing unusual, which only reinforces the officer's skepticism. He drives off toward the lab. Kanda rides along with Suzuki and Yoshie, tailing him, convinced something terrible is about to happen. Along the way, Yoshie tells Kanda about May's disturbing drawings. Drawings May says Aya told her to make. Suzuki asks about the strange writing on the box. Kanda has Yoshie hold the photo up and view it from behind the paper, because that writing is a sealing incantation meant to trap the doll inside the box permanently. Back at the lab, the officer looks at the photo Kanda took again, and now the doll in it looks monstrous. Still, he assumes it's some kind of prank and tosses the photo aside on his way to the lab. But the second he enters the tunnel leading in, Aya is suddenly standing right in front of his car. He slams the brakes, and what Suzuki, Yoshie, and Kanda find when they catch up to him a few minutes later is something none of them are ready for. The officer is sitting on the ground next to his car, sobbing, holding Aya. Kanda rushes over and recites protective chants over him. Aya had already gotten inside his head. The chant calms him instantly. Kanda seals Aya into a heavily locked box and takes Suzuki and Yoshi to meet an elderly man in a wheelchair. Decades ago, this man was a police officer stationed on Kanejima Island, which is exactly why Kanda brought them to him. He knows the real story. This is the backstory that changes how you'll see literally every scene before this. Kokichi Yasumoto had a daughter, born frail, sick her whole short life. His wife, in an unbearable moment of despair, attempted to end both their lives. She survived. Their daughter didn't. When Yasumoto learned what happened, he did something almost nobody could have imagined. To spare his wife from that grief, he took his daughter's remains, boiled them, and used her hair and bones to construct a doll in her image. His wife kept that doll with her at all times, cared for it like her real child, until the day she died, when the doll was buried alongside her. Days after the burial, the old man returned to the grave and found it dug open. Only his wife's remains were left inside. The doll was gone. His theory? Someone driven by greed dug her up to sell her. Hearing this, Yoshie finally understands Mei's drawings. They weren't random. They were Aya telling her own story, her mother, and what Yasumoto did to bring her back. Aya is Kokichi Yasumoto's daughter. Yoshie tells Kanda they need to bring Aya back to Kanejima and return her to her real mother's grave. Maybe that's what she's been wanting the whole time. Kanda agrees, but warns them. No one has dared set foot on that island in years for a reason. There's no telling what's really out there, or exactly where the grave sits. They'll need to perform a ritual first just to find it. Suzuki shows Kanda the documentary from earlier, The Crew That Found Nothing on the Island. Kanda tells him to look closer. At the start of that video, there are 5 people on the boat heading to the island. On the way back, 6. They performed the locating ritual. Holy water poured over Suzuki and Yoshie, chants recited. An object tied to string suspended over a map. As Kanda chants, Aya shifts back into her true, horrifying form, and the object on the string begins to move on its own, dragging across the map until it stops dead over one spot. They've found the grave. Suddenly, the lights cut out. The door locks. Something is running through the room in the dark. Kanda has Yoshie use her camera's flash to catch glimpses of what's moving, and each flash reveals Aya, now completely free and coming for them. Kanda hands Suzuki a sacred bag covered in protective script. Somehow, Suzuki manages to force Aya inside it. The second she's sealed in, she goes still, and the lights come back on. But in the chaos, Kanda steps on an eel in the dark and badly injures his foot, meaning he can't make the trip to the island himself. It's on Suzuki and Yoshie now. Before they leave, Kanda hands Suzuki a metal detector, because in that era, bodies were buried with a necklace of 6 coins, and Yasumoto's wife would have had one too. That's how they'll locate her exact resting place. And then Kanda drops the detail that turns this whole rescue mission into a ticking clock. There's a sign at the entrance to the path leading to the island. Anyone crossing has 2 hours to get back. The path only exists at low tide. Once the water rises, it's submerged until the next day. Miss the window, and you're stranded overnight. And spending a night on that island means one thing: you're not walking off it alive. Suzuki sets a 2-hour timer on his watch. They cross to the island with Aya sealed in the sacred bag, metal detector in hand, and eventually reach the marked location on the map. Now, they just need to pinpoint the exact spot to dig. They search for what feels like forever with no signal. Suzuki checks the time. 30 minutes left. He's about to give up hope entirely when the detector suddenly goes off. They dig fast. Suzuki was right. Inside, a skeleton, still wearing the necklace of 6 coins. This is Yasumoto's wife. Yoshie places the bag holding Aya into the grave, but in the process, an old photo of Mei that Yoshie always carries with her slips out and falls in too. She reaches in to grab it back. Suzuki tells her to just leave it. They're almost out of time. She won't listen. And that one decision is about to cost them everything. She climbs partway into the grave to retrieve the photo, right as a gust of wind blows the incense they'd lit for the ritual directly onto the sacred bag holding Aya. The bag catches fire. It burns through. The seal is broken. Aya bursts free, fully transformed, fully monstrous. Yoshie screams for Suzuki to pull her out. He grabs her and hauls with everything he has, but Aya grabs Yoshie's leg and starts dragging her back down. Suzuki finally manages to yank her free and slams the grave shut. But in the panic, he doesn't notice Yoshie's hair is still caught inside as the lid closes. Something starts pulling her toward the grave by her own hair. With no other option, Yoshie smashes the frame holding Mei's photo and uses a shard of broken glass to cut her own hair free. They finally manage to get Aya sealed back with her mother. For good this time. Exhausted, they head home. Now here's where the movie pulls the rug out from under you completely. The moment they walk in the door, Mei runs and hugs Yoshie. The next morning, all three of them sit down for breakfast together. Happy, normal, like none of it happened. Yoshie feeds Mei with her own hands. Then, a green car pulls up outside their apartment. It's Mei's grandmother and Kanda, coming to check in on the family. They head up in the elevator. Meanwhile, in a different elevator, Suzuki, Yoshie, and Mei are heading out the door for a shopping trip. Grandma and Kanda have no idea the family they're about to visit isn't actually home. Grandma brought along the security footage from the night Aya spoke to baby Mei. She wants to show Kanda on the way up. He listens closely to what Aya was actually saying to Mei on that recording, and what he hears makes the floor practically fall out from under him. They reach the apartment and notice something at the breakfast table. Yoshie and Suzuki's plates are empty, cleared, but the food and milk in front of Mei's chair, the one we just watched her eating breakfast in minutes ago, hasn't been touched at all. That's when Kanda catches what Aya is saying on the footage. Clear as day, she never liked her mother. She never wants to go back to her. But Kanda was the one who sent Suzuki and Yoshie to bury Aya with her real mother, and right then we cut outside to Suzuki and Yoshie walking off with Mei to go shopping. As they pass the green car parked outside, Mei is sitting inside it, because the little girl they've been living with, eating breakfast with, and are currently walking to the mall with right now is Aya. The moment that sacred bag burned through back at the grave, Aya took control of Suzuki and Yoshie completely, and in that state, they never buried her at all. They mistook her for their real daughter, brought her straight back home, and left the real Mei behind on the island forever. So, if you were Suzuki or Yoshie, would you have noticed the swap before it was too late? Drop your theory in the comments, hit subscribe for more deep dive horror explanations, and I'll see you in the next one.